Hello, hello? Can you hear me in the back? Yep, I got hands up. All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. It is 5 o'clock. We want to respect your time. So thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening for this informational meeting on the proposed Vista Ridge project here in Fairfield. I'll give just a second for people to settle down. So, good evening. My name is David Gassaway. I'm the city manager here for the city of Fairfield, and I'm going to be kicking us off tonight as we dive into all of the information that hopefully answers your questions on this project. Really the intent of tonight is to put out as much information as possible about the project. You can see up on the slides here that we have broken tonight's presentation into segments. Those segments are going to be the different members of this team. So we'll have the Danco team get up in just a moment and give their overview, give their background overview on the project and management of the project. We will have their architects here talk about project site design and safety improvements that would be going on at the project. We'll talk about the city's role and what our oversight and regulatory requirements are in ensuring that Danco, as the owner-operator, is following all of the requisite requirements. And then we'll hear from some of our service providers with Caminar and Resource Connect Solano about the supportive services at the project as well as the intake process. And then we'll have some time at the end tonight for general Q&A. The way that we have this set up is that in each of these segments, any member of the team that's going to be presenting will present. We've tried to time it out where it's about maybe a 10-minute presentation on some of the information, and then that leaves about 15 minutes for Q&A on that specific segment. And then at the end, we should have about 20-25 minutes of general Q&A as well. So there will be lots of opportunity for everybody to get your questions in. We do recognize, though, as well, there's a lot of questions that folks might have. People are going to have comments on the project. That is perfectly fine. We have 2 hours tonight. And 2 hours sometimes isn't a lot of time as you get into making these presentations and as you have Q&A. If we run short of time, right? If 2 hours is simply not enough, as everybody came in, hopefully you grabbed either question or comment cards. Those are things that anybody, if you don't feel comfortable standing up, asking your question in front of everybody or making that comment, feel free to put it on that card. And afterwards, if we haven't gotten to everything and everybody, our team here at the City of Fairfield, we're going to be going through all of those. We'll be making sure to answer all of those questions and putting that information up on our website. So we want to make sure that we're responsive to all of the questions. If there's comments on those cards, then we'll be compiling all of that and making sure that that gets into the record as well. One of the things that I want to point out is I know that there are strong emotions on this project on both sides of the topic. No matter what side of the topic you're on, though, we're here to answer the questions, right? We're here to provide the information and the details that hopefully give everybody a deeper understanding of what this project is proposed and how it's intended to go. So I'm going to set some ground rules here right on the very beginning. And, very simply put, it's kind of the golden rule, right? Treat others as you would hope to be treated. And so, tonight, I want to make sure that everybody feels safe making the comments that they have, asking the questions that they have, so that we can get through the topic and everybody feels comfortable engaging in the dialogue of this project. And so, I ask that we not have any booing, heckling, right? If somebody is up here and they're asking a question or they're making a comment, again, no matter what side of this topic you are on, whether you are for the project or you are adamantly against the project, let's respect everybody's questions. Let's respect everybody's opinions on this, and we can get through this together. One of the big things in these ground rules that is common, right? It may not be an outward, somebody just jeering at somebody's comments, but sometimes as somebody starts to speak, other people start to talk. They start to talk amongst themselves. So let's all respect each other. If someone's up at the microphone and they're speaking, let's give them the floor to ask their questions. And definitely let's assume everybody is here with good intentions. Everybody wants to know more about this, and that's what we're here to do tonight, is we're here to answer those questions. The last thing I will say is in order to get to as many folks as possible, to answer as many questions and get as many details as possible out on this project, please stay on time. Please stay on topic. We have about a minute or two. Once we get to the Q&A, about a minute or two. If that's about what we have per person. So we'll be timing that. We'll be asking folks, hey, maybe get to your question if you can, because again, we want to get through as many questions as possible. We want to hear from as many of you as possible. So. With that, that is just sort of the introductory, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to Danco to give a little bit about themselves and to talk more about the project.
Check. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Nice to see some of you again. So just firstly, I would like to say on behalf of our entire team, I brought some individual experts this time, Laura and Chris, that we're really honored to be here and talk about this crucially important project with you all. Second to that, many thanks to all the groups involved in supporting this project so far, the City of Fairfield staff, Caminar and Resource Connect Solano, HKIT, our design specialists, and then also the community members who have continued to lend their voices despite all of the adversity and challenge that we're experiencing related to this project. So next slide, please, Dan. Just brief team introductions. My name's Cameron. I've met a lot of you already, but I am project manager as well as an acquisitions analyst for the company. In my time so far, I've led negotiations for property that will yield in excess of 1,000 new units of permanent, supportive, and affordable housing throughout California. I also oversee 8 other projects in our portfolio, all in various phases of due diligence, land use entitlements, financing, loan closing, and other public processes. And I'll pass it over to Chris, President of Danco Communities.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name's Chris Dart. I'm president of Danco Communities. Been doing this for 33 years. Been in business for 33 years. Been doing affordable housing for about 27 of those 33 years. And just grateful to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura Barrett. I am on the property management side. I've been with the company 17 years and been focusing on property management for about 10 of those 17 years.
Next slide, please, the 10.
Can I get your thing? So this is just a little bit about Danco Group. We've been in business for 38 years. We employ over 300 people. With 3 main offers of housing. So we call ourselves vertically integrated. So we're a development company, which is the slide that you saw with the picture of that team. That's the group that works on community meetings and works with the architects and the engineers and gets the financing and the permits for the project. And then we also are a builder, which is where a large part of the 300 employees work in our building division. We build, all of our projects. We have our own crews like framers and concrete and earth workers. And then we have our property management group that does, all of our management. We are currently working in California, mostly California. We have our main offices are up in Arcata, Northern California. But we have a lot of offices also in the Bay Area, East Bay, and even as far down as Ventura County. And then we're also working in the state of Arizona and Oregon as well. Next slide. We brought Danco Communities. We've been active in this space. We've brought over 2,000 affordable housing units to market since we started doing affordable housing. And we'll lease up an additional 600 this year that we're actually in the process of leasing up. And we have about 2,500 units under construction and in various phases of development. And we also, as I mentioned, maintain the role of property management on all of our properties as well.
Okay, so the purpose of this slide is really to give more background on our experience under the Home Key program so far. So Home Key came forth under the state as a solution to the homelessness crisis in 2019. So that makes the program about 6 years old now. In that time, we've done 5 successful projects under that program. So we have one up in Arcata, California. That's 78 units of permanent supportive housing. It was a conversion of a Red Roof Inn hotel. We have 2 in Sacramento, the Central Sacramento Studios, Best Western Plus Hotel, 98 units of permanent supportive housing, and then Madison Square Studios, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, and then 2 more in Oakland, Temescal Commons and Coliseum Commons, which total right over 50 units of permanent supportive housing. So this is Madison Square Studios. Really just wanted to bring awareness to this site location, given much of the conversation. So this is probably a little bit small, but the site's positioned very similarly to how the Sure Stay on North Texas Street is positioned. There's a restaurant that virtually shares a parking lot, a retail center right across the street, and this is a state priority to pick sites with amenities nearby. So then on our project, as many of you know, it's 3331 North Texas Street, Fairfield, California. There's currently 100 hotel rooms there, and our proposal is to turn those into 48 one-bedroom permanent supportive housing units with 2 studios and 1 two-bedroom manager's unit. I've spoke about our partners here, and then, yeah. So why this location? More on that. So understandably so, much of the dialogue so far has claimed that the location is not sufficient or suitable for this use. So I thought just quickly to address some of that. So first of all, this is still a conventional real estate transaction and investment. So there's a buyer, a seller, terms and conditions, and a situation that needs to produce mutual satisfaction. With that, the state also limits the amount of funding that a project is eligible for. So the seller has to engage in that transaction at a price in which that can support the acquisition of the property, as well as all of the demo, rehab, and new construction that will take place on site. Lastly, the program is also a competitive process, and one of the main factors that allows a project to be competitive is some of the amenities that I mentioned. So this is directly across the street from Rayleigh's. There's also a CVS pharmacy and some other public transit nearby that shows the state that this project is adequate to support the residents. So I'm going to pass it on to Laura to talk a little bit more about management and operations.
Obviously, we do more than this in property management, but I want to hit the highlights that you guys may be concerned with, which is security measures. So when operating a project like this, obviously we have to take security into consideration. So we have 24/7 desk. Someone's at the desk 24/7. When our property manager or maintenance staff are off-site or off hours, we do have security guards on site so that there's always someone monitoring the project. We have surveillance. We also have checks. So when people come onto the premises, we check them in and we check them out to ensure that, you know, the tenants are coming in and out of the property and they're not bringing in guests that may be causing that aren't supposed to be there. And so that's one of the big things with security, and I'm sure we'll touch more on that later. And then this is part of our tenant selection policy. It's more detailed than this, but overall we do conduct an assessment, and then we just determine the likelihood that the applicant can meet the obligations of the lease and comply with the rules of the apartment community. And so yes, we do hold the tenants accountable to the lease and house rules. We do cite them with lease violations. We record all that all the lease violations that happen. Then we work alongside the service provider to try to retain their housing. You know, people make mistakes, and so we do, but I just want to emphasize that we do have leases and house rules and that the tenants are required to comply. I think that was there one more? That's it?
So that concludes our portion. Wanted to move on to Q&A. The blue cards are for the developer, the property manager. If you have questions for developer or property management or construction, we can take those, and we'll leave about 15 to 18 minutes to answer any of those questions. And I think Sam has some extra cards over there if you haven't filled one out yet.
So are there any questions for Danco on the general overview of the project? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Test. Hi. My question is for Laura. You mentioned that you're going to have security on the facility, but these are all external opening doors all around the hotel. So how do you monitor that? How can you stop anybody from coming in and out of those external doors?
We'll put a gate around the premises.
Oh, what's that?
A gate. It will be gated. So there'll be a full gate around the premises with certain accesses. There could be emergency accesses. I think there's 3 access points, but we'll gate the entire perimeter of the community, and then we'll have surveillance on the exterior, so cameras. And we also have security guards that will walk the premises.
And you're going to guard 50 doors. You're going to protect, make sure nobody comes in and out of those 50 doors anywhere around the building.
Well, that's why there's a fence around the perimeter, so there's only one access in.
Okay. Thank you.
I was just going to add, typically we bring the resident, we have emergency exits that she touched on, but we bring everybody in through one location so we can control who comes and who goes, and we have eyes on that spot.
Okay.
So,
question for you, because you mentioned you've been in business now for 38 years with Danco. How come Danco is not a member of the Better Business Bureau? Why are you not accredited by the Better Business Bureau?
I don't know how to answer that.
Okay, just curious, because there's a certain standards of ethics that require that, a vetting process by the Better Business Bureau, and your company's not, but you've been in business for 38 years. So where's that trust?
First I've heard of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can show you the Better Business Bureau page if you'd like. I've got it right here.
No, it's fine. I'll take your word for it.
Then, if I can ask one more question, I understand this is like a $27 or $28 million project. Is that correct?
Sounds right. Okay.
And you have a crew of 300 that you've already hired, probably that don't live in this community, correct?
Well, no, we have 300 employees within
Okay.
the organization now, and many that live in the Bay Area and in East Bay and Sonoma County and Santa Clara County, all over.
Okay. So how much of this $27 million is going to be reinvested in this community?
Well, all of it. We're putting
All of it?
We're doing all the construction here locally. We're purchasing the building here. We're hiring local subcontractors.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
My question. I worked with the Department of Correction for 30 years, retired from there, and I've worked with a lot of clients that you guys propose to take into this operation. My first question is, security-wise, you guys said that you're going to have security on the 24. Is this armed security or just?
No, they will not be armed guards. They'll be unarmed guards.
Okay. Fact. If you put that much of a bad element at one location, you guys are saying that you're going to house drug offenders, pedophiles, veterans, mentally unstable people in this environment. If you put that much negative element in one location with no supportive, with no expectations, I mean, as far as they need to seek help or they need to get drug counseling or need to stay off drugs, if you put that much of a bad element in one location, that's not going to work. It's going to fail. That's a recipe for failure. I've seen it firsthand. I've dealt with it firsthand. And I know that if you take, and this is a fact, if you take 40 sober people and you put that 40 sober people into an element where you have 3 drug users and they're continuing to use drugs, and you have 40 people that are struggling to stay off drugs, the 40 is eventually, within 6 months, going to be back on using drugs because there's no expectations for them to get better. There's no support for them to have to take this medication, or even let's take, for instance, the mentally unstable. If they're not taking their medicine, and see, we have to make sure in a corrections facility, we have to make sure that they take their medicine. We have a flashlight. We shine it down their throat to make sure that they take their medicine, because if they don't, they're either selling it to drug users or they're not taking their medicine. And I mean, it causes for a wild environment. Then you have unarmed security there. I mean,
That's a service question, but I'm happy to pass it down.
Well, no, we're going to come to that next. The service, we do have services on site, and we're going to talk about that next.
but I mean, it's not a plan that's going to succeed. That's all I'm trying to say. If it's under this, if this is what you get, the guidelines that you guys are doing, this is not supportive services. This is
Well, and so I think that's where the service providers through Kaminar, they're going to give their presentation next on the services that will be provided. And I think in what they'll present, some of the questions that you're asking are going to be answered.
I could just comment on a property management side is that we do have 6 other locations that we have done this on, and I don't know how it works, but it does. I mean, the first 6 months, first year are a little hectic,
okay,
but it does work.
But
it does
I
work.
understand that. But see, you have like
I mean, sometimes it feels like magic. No, because sometimes it does feel like
they have
magic.
the same program set up in San Francisco in the Tenderloin. All of San Francisco became the Tenderloin. And that's because they housed them. They even did a needle exchange to keep it all clean, and they tried to support them. And I mean, it didn't work. All of San Francisco is good, and they have more resources than we have.
Yes, sir.
It didn't work in Oakland.
Sir, and at this location, we're not talking about needle exchanges or any of that type of
But
stuff.
you're talking about drug users.
We are not talking about drug users. So that's where I would encourage you to hear what the supportive service provider has. But I also do want to keep moving along so that we can get everybody's questions. And I assure you, we'll get to the answer. And if not, then happy to talk with you here afterwards.
I think, are we using comment cards here, David? Because we have a comment card here from Nora. Is it Diazon? Would you like to come up and say your comment? We're going with comment card. Go ahead. You didn't put in a card.
This may not be for you guys. My name is Bill, all right? This is a large bucket of money. I heard 28 million. Is there more involved from other sources that you guys know of? So $28 million.
No, that's the whole project cost.
Okay, that's the whole project, and the project is to support Fairfield and make things better. How much of that money is going to the heroes that defend us? How much of that money are you paying for more police and fire and ambulance services, right? The money's going to go in your pockets and your facility, and you guys are going to make a boatload of money, but we're going to need more heroes to protect this community. And I don't hear anything about any money helping the Fairfield Police, helping the Fairfield Fire Department. That's all I got to say. This is unbelievable.
Can we? Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my name's Les Johnson. I've been a resident of Rolling Hills for 33 years now. That's just across the highway from this facility.
A little closer to the mic, please.
Just across the highway from this facility. And I just want you to all realize, David, city council members, that this facility is going to be at the gateway to the city of Fairfield. When people drive into the city of Fairfield, this is the first thing they're going to see. They're going to see a cute little restaurant there. They're going to see a Rayleigh's shopping center there. There's a new bank just down the street, and a vacant lot that would be a prime place for a nice restaurant. There's no nice restaurant going to be built if there's this facility built just down the street. I visualize shopping carts, discarded clothing, food wrappers all over the street and around the area. And I just think that there is a better place in this town for this operation. Thanks.
Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, y'all. Can you hear me? My name's Robin. This is Nomi. You guys might recognize her from the last meeting. We were there as well. As you know from the last meeting, I've lived in that same 10-block radius my whole life. I was there when Rayleigh's was built, when CBS was built, and it was much nicer back then. In the last probably 10 years, CBS has been cutting their hours. They've been cutting their pharmacy hours. They've been cutting their employees, and it's all due to the violence and the shoplifting. These are my grocers. That's my pharmacy. Those are my pharmacists. I'd like to know what you guys are going to do to help protect them from the people that you are bringing into this side of town. Because you're not taking the ones that are off the street there already, right? You're taking them from a list that's including the whole county. So I'd like to know how you're going to protect the people that are my friends that I see every day.
Well, we are housing individuals that are currently experiencing homelessness. So we are taking people that do not have houses and we're housing them. And there are residents, and they will follow the rules of the housing facility, or there will be consequences. And they will also need to follow the rules of the city of Fairfield and state of California. Mm-hmm. That's all we can do. We're housing providers.
Mm-hmm. So if a resident were to get in trouble outside of your housing, you know, if they were to get arrested at Rayleigh's, would they be held accountable by you guys?
If they're doing something on the premises, then we would have the authority to arrest or to take action, but we're not the police, no.
So if they're bringing violence into our community outside of your property, you can't do anything about it?
We would work together with our service providers to identify those folks and work with the local police department to help facilitate those conversations to make it safe for everybody. That's what we would do. Go ahead, David.
Yeah. I was going to say thank you. I want to make sure that we're moving along in terms of the different sections. So I think let's make that the last question under this opening section. Okay. Let's have the presentation now from, I believe it's Kaminar. Who's next? Oh, HKIT. So this is the architecture firm that has done the site design. So I'll turn it over to them. And then we'll take questions about this on the next portion.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. We're really excited to be back here in Fairfield. My name is Paul McElwee. I'm an architect with HKIT. We're an East Bay-based firm. And we happy to be working again with Danco. This is one of several projects we've done. We've done a few of these home key projects. We've got a staff that's been working on this for the last few months. Next slide, please. Our experience includes a number of affordable and multifamily communities. This is a focus of our work. We do new construction, and we also do quite a bit of rehab projects. We've worked all over the Bay in a number of jurisdictions doing housing and supportive housing. Next slide, please. Just to familiarize everyone with the outside, and the work that we're doing is primarily going to be in the inside of the building and on the inside of the property. So the appearance of the hotel from the outside should be more or less the same. Let's go to the next slide. So in terms of the street view, what we're seeing right now from the street level, the landscaping that's there, like the large trees, are going to remain. We're going to do a refresh of the landscaping, move some of the shrubs that are in good health and provide new landscaping. We also mentioned a fence. We're going to have a steel 6-foot security fence around the entire property, and that will be visible between what you're seeing there in the landscaped area and the building. Next slide. Again, not many changes to the exterior aside from a refresh to the landscape. We will be adding a small monument sign for the residents and taking down the large church stay sign. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, I don't know how well this is visible, but this is a site plan of the property, and I can describe the best I can. If folks can see a purple line that surrounds the property, again, across the face, along the street, and along the perimeter, along the back, is the 6-foot steel fence. We'll have 3 automated gates that will be actuated by the cars coming in and out. They'll be locked at all other times. And we'll also have a pedestrian gate that'll be locked for only resident access. The landscaping throughout the property is going to be enhanced. We're going to be removing a few of the trees that are in poor health, but replacing all of them in kind. And then the net, we're going to be adding more trees. So at the end of the day, we're going to have more trees there than we started with. At the center between the 2 buildings, roughly in the center of the property, there's currently there's a swimming pool and a baby pool in that area. Those are going to be removed. For the tenants of this property, we want to create a lot of open space outdoors, places where people can sit and congregate privately or in small groups. So in that area between the buildings, we're proposing some lawn areas, paving, seating, some shade structures to really create a comfortable and secure interior environment for the residents' use. I should note also that the community room and the resident offices are also located directly adjacent to that central courtyard area. In addition to the central courtyard that we're creating, we're also going to be providing some additional amenities on site. That includes a small basketball half court in the parking lot. That'll be fenced off as well. We're going to have a dog run area with some AstroTurf, an area where people can bring in, I believe, service animals and other pets that are in the residence. We're going to be adding secure bicycle parking, bicycle lockers for the individuals living there, additional accessible parking, and an additional outdoor kiosk seating area. Next slide, please. Just some images of the landscaping that's proposed. Again, we're going to be maintaining some of the nice palm trees, the larger heritage plants, and replanting them. We're going to be adding in new ground covers, trees, and shrubs. Next slide. This is a board that shows some of the materials we're looking at for the outdoor landscaping. We want to use pavers that will remain cool and allow us to retain stormwater. We'll be, as I mentioned earlier, providing a 6-foot steel fence around the entire property with gates, bicycle parking, and seating as well. Next slide. This is a ground floor plan. The hotel currently contains around 100 units. We're coming down to 48 units. So what that means is we're combining hotel rooms. What you're seeing here on these sort of yellow blocks are combined hotel rooms. So we're taking these 2 and we're combining them into a 1-bedroom home with a kitchenette and a bathroom. The smaller ones that are in blue are smaller studio units where we're keeping the original footprint of the hotel room. And then above that, there's space for a manager's unit. So our on-site resident manager will be living there in the center of the property, along with 24-hour property management offices, which are located in that in the green portion at the top. Finally, in the building on the other side, we've got the community room. That's that purple area. That is a couple units that are being repurposed for a shared interior community space. Next slide. And the upper floors more the same, combining units. We're keeping, again, the exterior of the building more or less the same with a little bit of refresh. Most of the work is going to happen inside the building. This is an image of the units that are converted into a community room. The idea is we'll have a space for gatherings and potential after-school programs or any other programs that are part of the service management. And that'll be immediately adjacent the outdoor space, so we have this sort of indoor-outdoor connection between the community room and the courtyard space. And finally, some elevations. Again, we're looking to do some refresh, but the building will appear more or less the same as it does now from the exterior. And I believe that is the end of our presentation. Okay, thank you, everyone.
So just to clarify, I know I started calling people up. I think I was misspeaking. Are we going to pull from the speaker cards and ask people to come up and ask their questions?
Yeah, I think that's the process, and then at the end, we were going to have an open
Open Q&A. Okay,
Right.
so why don't you guys go ahead?
And if there's any speaker cards for Paul, does he have those? What color are those? Oh, they're combined. Okay, got it. So we had a question from Nora. Did you want to ask your question, or I can ask it for you? I can read it for you, or okay. So your question was, what is the source of the 20 million funding for the project? Will this be kept in escrow so the funding is secure, or will you be subject to the changing politics of the state funding California? I think that's the gist of it. And the answer is yes, these funds, the source of these funds are state funding. It's called the Home Key Plus program. It's state funds. It comes from the governor of California's budget for housing. And those funds will go to the city, and the city will release those funds as the project progresses. I think a large part of those funds are going to be used for the acquisition, which is the purchase of the motel hotel itself. They will all happen in escrow and concurrently with a closing, so they will be secure. Those funds are already earmarked. They're already being deployed, so they're not subject to any state changing. At this point, it appears that the project is going to be funding and move it, from the state's perspective. They're going to fund it, but that's not finalized. But when that happens, it'll go through the city. Okay, thanks. Okay, you've already answered this one? Okay. Next question is from Lisa. I can't read the last name. Is it Bonington? Bonington? Did you want to come up and ask it, or do you want me to ask it for you? Come up? Okay, thank you.
Don't specifically have questions. I just have some commentary. I'm the executive director for the North Texas Business Association. As such, my executive committee asked me to do outreach to all of North Texas businesses. So we did do an initial survey, an unbiased survey, because we advocate, of course, on behalf of the businesses. And just to give you a little summary of the response, and again, it was initial outreach. We'll probably do secondary outreach as well, which has generated some questions and opportunities for more forums. But essentially, the results were 90% of the businesses that did respond felt it would have a negative impact, and 100% were opposed to this project. They did want me to communicate their opposition and advocate for them, but there are some representatives here that want to advocate, of course, for themselves, and have communicated to me they are potentially looking at either relocation of their business, either within Fairfield or maybe outside of Fairfield. So that concerns me as somebody who represents them. Of course, I want to acknowledge that the 70% respondents that did respond have been in the service business for over 10 years and also have been on North Texas for 10 years. So they have some longevity and some experience in that area. And in addition to that, they did have some commentary, which would probably result in a forum or more questions, because we offered to do a forum, but this is one of the forums, of course, City of Fairfield is doing for the community at large, and I understand there's another one coming up, so hopefully we can get questions asked both sides and hear from both perspectives. But the concern mainly is there's already so many unhoused and homeless issues already on North Texas that are affecting the businesses, that be it theft or defecation or in public and things of that nature, that they're concerned that it's going to draw more attention to that, there'll be more, and that even though this resolves one issue and houses some, it doesn't necessarily resolve the issue that already exists. So again, just primarily commentary, but some food for thought, and I'm more than happy to share in more detail in a different circumstance all the feedback that they provided. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of North Texas Business Association.
Hello. There we go. And just, was brought to our attention that there was 10 respondents, is that accurate from that survey, or 9 respondents out of 300? That's what we understood, so just clarifying. Okay. Okay, thank you. Got it. Thank you very much. Next question.
Next question was risk management. Will the management last 20 years? Question mark. Yes. Residents will damage and destroy the units due to drugs and unmedicated mental health prescriptions. Inflation, question mark. Is there a financial, Is there a financial plan residents can view before this is passed? If not, there is no transparency. So yes, for all of our properties, we do a capital needs assessment, and we do that every year. And we also have replacement reserves that are in our regulatory covenants or lender covenants, where we have to put money aside each year to replace items to keep the property in good health.
Okay, next card. We got 2 more here. This one says, it's anonymous, says Danco has a long history of lawsuits, more than 36 according to a 2013 article, and a prior reputation for property management as evident by a boycott Danco Facebook page. How is this location going to do any different from the other locations to be addressed in the article, the Facebook page? I would just say that, when you're out doing things, sorry about that. When you're out doing things, I think people talk. I don't know what to say about a boycott Danco page. We're a business. We do a lot of work. Suppose everybody's not happy with us. In terms of lawsuits, we're not any different than any other business. We have some lawsuits sometimes, which we resolve, but I don't think we're excessive in that way.
Hey Chris, I think Mayor Moy probably has a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
Do you want me to fill out a blue card?
Well, we were doing the Q&A at the end. We're trying to do a structure here, but go ahead.
I just wanted to, and my name's Catherine Moy. I'm a lifelong resident of Fairfield. I want to talk about registered sex offenders, and we've been told that there will be none here. But on 2 of your properties today, one at Churchill Townhomes in Fortuna, and another one at Oak Valley Villas in Clear Lake, both have serious registered sex offenders. They're registered at those 2 sites. One offended against children, and the other one is rated as a 5 and seriously could reoffend. So I'm wondering, do you know about this? And why do you say that there won't be sex offenders when in fact your properties now have them?
Well, what I can tell you is, I don't know about those 2, but what I can tell you is that the properties that have...
I'm telling you, I can give you I have pictures and everything.
Well, I'm going to answer your question.
Thank you, sir.
So this project has project-based vouchers.
I understand that.
And under the project-based voucher program, lifetime sex offenders are prohibited from living there. Those other two properties that you mentioned do not. However, there are policies on different properties that do not have project-based vouchers, and there's a process. So there could be somebody that lives in one of our properties that doesn't have project-based vouchers, but this project does. And so the Tier 3 lifetime sex offenders will not be allowed to live here, and any Tier 1 or 2, there's a process to go through to determine whether or not they would be eligible.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. But these are home key. These are two of your home key projects that you guys are proud of.
No, that's not the case.
No?
No.
When I looked them up, it
Did you
said
say
that.
Clear Lake?
I did.
Oak Valley Villas is not a home key.
Churchill Townhomes?
Is not a home key.
And Oak Valley Villas?
Those are not home key.
So they're just some of your properties?
Those are tax credit properties.
They're tax credit properties?
They do not
Okay,
have.
so you're going to make sure that there are no sex offenders, whether registered or not, or if they're off the registry, they can live there?
If they're Tier 3, they cannot live there.
I understand that. These two that live in your properties up here are right now registered, period. And I know that you guys are kicking some out. I just talked to somebody, a planning commissioner, who said that they either alerted you or let you know, and you guys are kicking them out now, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, there's been some rule changes that allows us some authority to take action.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Rule changes?
There's been some changes that allow us to take action, and so we're working on that. Yes.
Good. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Next card. I think this is the last one we have. Can you read that? I can't see that. I can't read this card. I can't read the last card, so we'll work on it here, but we can go to the next presentation. Okay, wait, there's one more. Did the city provide selected, oh, sorry. Deanna, do you want to read your question? Okay, thanks.
Firstly, I'd like to thank you. You did a marvelous presentation. You have great expertise, knowledge, wonderful pictures. We love it all. But the reason I'm here, I want to say that I do not support this project because I'm a resident very closely to where you proposed this location to be housing drug addicts. And I really don't want to see them on my streets. So, with that said, I would like to know, at the time of bid, when you submitted your proposal to the city, did you have a specific location at that time that you could submit with a pricing, cost estimate, special requirements and all that?
Just to clarify your question, you're asking if we had a site in mind or secured at the time of our proposal to the
I would
city?
like to know, how did you come to select this specific site?
Yeah, so I did cover some of this in the presentation, but sorry if it wasn't clear enough. So the city of Fairfield issued a NOFA for a notice of funding availability for soft financing, gap financing to support the development of permanent supportive housing projects. We applied to that notice of funding availability with this location in mind, and were selected by the city of Fairfield for that funding source, which is about $1.5 million of the $26 million total development cost for the project. Part of the reason that we selected this site, is that ringing better? Yeah. Part of the reason we selected this site is, first, it's a real estate transaction, so there's a private seller and a private buyer that have to be willing to negotiate and move that transaction forward and satisfy both parties. And second to that, the state also awards projects based on a competitive selection process. So they don't just say, they don't just award the grant if you provide a proposal that suggest doing this housing out in the middle of nowhere, as we've heard very often. You have to be close to grocery stores. You have to be close to public transit. You have to be close to pharmacies. It's a requirement of the state program, and you cannot provide permanent supportive housing if you don't fulfill on those obligations. So the site selection was strategic and was where we felt we could deliver the product in the best way.
Okay, I understood that it was a business decision for you. It's all fine and dandy. However, for the city of Fairfield, it's not just a business decision. This is a public-private venture where the interests of city of Fairfield residents has to be taken into consideration. And I feel, and my address to the representatives of city of Fairfield, I feel, along with many folks here who are sitting here, that city of Fairfield, leadership of Fairfield, has not taken into consideration the residents, how they feel about this location. They just went ahead. They just went ahead and approved this location without consulting. And then, on a famous August meeting when the Danco company was called on why they did not have this wonderful meeting at that time, well, they said that state has not approved anything yet and they had to continue with them, and yet the city went ahead and still voted for rezoning. So my complaint is to the city and much less to you guys, because you're just doing your job. You want your $28 million. Who cares? You can dump it in Fairfield or let's say in Vallejo. But my complaint is to the city of Fairfield. They are not held accountable. They do not hold themselves accountable. They do not have my interests. They don't have interests of all these people who are sitting here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to our housing staff to talk about regulatory oversight of the project.
Good evening, everyone. My name is LaTanya Toronis. I am a senior project manager with the Housing Services Department. So the mission for the city of Fairfield that as staff we commit ourselves to: foster a sense of pride and community, improve the lives of our residents, and deliver dependable essential services through integrity, professionalism, and fiscal responsibility. So some of the city of Fairfield...
Ladies and gentlemen, I would ask for, again, remember back to the start of the session, right? We're not going to heckle people that are talking. And LaTanya wants to describe some of the regulatory oversight of the proposed project. I would like to ask her to proceed with that, and then we're happy to answer the questions that you might have.
Thank you. So the City Council has established a group of goals by which the city staff governs itself according. And for this particular project, two of the goals we are meeting two of the goals. One being homelessness, to reduce homelessness and the impacts of homelessness, and then two, housing. The goal is to provide housing, diversity, affordable, accessible to all. For this particular project, the Vista Ridge project, the city of Fairfield has allocated about $2.5 million into this project directly. So the local housing trust fund are dollars that we receive from the Housing and Community Development Department from the state of California. These particular funds have to be used to support affordable housing, either through building new affordable housing or through acquisition and rehabilitation. The funds cannot be used for any other resources. And for our particular, we did apply for these funds as we established the Housing Trust Fund. These particular funds have to be used to support projects for individuals and families that are at 30% or below. So their income levels have to be at the extremely low levels for these funds. And then we have the Pro Housing Incentive Program, which are PIP funds. So these particular funds, again, are funds that were granted to the city of Fairfield by the California Housing Community Development Department to support affordable housing. These particular funds, we allocated $535,000. They have a very short timeline for utilizing these funds. We applied for a pro-housing designation, which only about 36 cities in the entire state actually qualify for. So because of that, because of our designation, they granted us these funds to utilize for the support of affordable housing projects, one of their high levels is permanent and supportive housing. And then lastly, also the housing authority, the city of Fairfield has allocated project-based vouchers, which are 50, we allocated 50 project-based vouchers. This is a federally funded program through the Housing Urban Development Department through the federal government to support housing subsidies for families and individuals. And so for this particular project, the 50 project vouchers will support these families. And so this is a highly restrictive program. There are rules and regulations that everyone must go through and must qualify in order to receive the housing subsidy for this particular project and these programs. And so one of the things is that the city as staff, as staff, it's very important for us to always be transparent. And so we've ensured that every single one of the processes that we've gone through up until this point has been transparent. With the first one, our local housing trust fund dollars, we had an open bid. So any developer could have applied for the $1 million that we had available. Danco was one of the applicants that qualified for the local housing trust fund dollars back last year, back in August when we opened that, we had an open bid. We then took that approval through a public hearing to City Council on January 21st and received council approval to grant the $1 million to Danco. Then we had the Home Key application. Before submitting the application for the Home Key Plus program, we had to take that information to the City Council to review and approve. We had to do that as part of the original process that goes to HCD before we can submit the application. That application went forward to the City Council on February 4th, 2025, and the City Council approved the submission of that application. In January or February of this year, the city also had an open bid process for any developer that was interested in submitting an application for the project-based voucher program. During that, as part of that process, a public hearing was also held on March 4th, 2025, and that request was approved by the City Council. In June of this year, Danco went to the Planning Commission to request a zoning change. The Planning Commission approved that request. And again, it went forward to the City Council on July the 2nd. City Council approved that request. And then the second zoning change went forward to the City Council on July 16th. And so what you can see here is that we have continuously made this a transparent process for opportunities for the public so that you all understand what's happening with this this project along the way. Okay, my apologies. So the first zoning request went to City Council on July 16th. I apologize. And then the second one went on August the 5th. So just to correct those dates. And again, both those were approved by City Council. And so as we go forth with any of our projects where the city provides any level of funding, whether it's $1 or $10 million, when we're working with housing projects, we always make sure that the city protects the project and the city through making sure that there is compliance with every single project. And so as well as not just what the city has to do, but the state as well. there will be, it always comes with a long-term regulatory agreement, which requires for the developer to comply with. And so just some of the key items that will go into a regulatory agreement, and most regulatory agreements are going to be 55 years or longer. Okay, so some of the key, so the facility must remain a permanent supportive housing. It can never be transient, it can never be a shelter. It will always have to be permanent supportive housing during the term of that compliance period. The rent must always remain affordable to low-income residents. For this funding source, for the local housing trust fund dollars, it does have to support those with 30% or below, 30% AMI or below. The site must maintain competent site management subject to state approval. And so when those things don't happen, what happens is that the city ensures that every agreement that we put into place, that there is opportunities for the manager to perform if there are any issues. And then there's also opportunities where the city may perform should there be any concerns with the developer. The site is always subject to annual compliance, monitoring affordability, site conditions, and effective management. So as part of the regulatory agreement, these items are laid out of what the developer must do in order to maintain the site in a way that's compliant and that is satisfactory to the city. And when those things don't happen, again, there are things in the regulatory agreement that will require for them to perform accordingly. There must be compliance with the Fairfield PD to remain code compliant and consistent with the crime-free environmental conditions. The site interior and exterior conditions must remain decent, safe, and habitable. And the site operational practices must be compliant with state and federal requirements. And so the city, again, through the compliance, not just through the state, there's federal, and then there's the city. So we're at every single level where we will ensure that the most rigorous rules are always followed based upon these funding sources. And then, so why home key and why permanent supportive housing in Fairfield? So the Home Key program and permanent supportive housing has a significant impact to reduce the city's unhoused population. And so this project alone, housing 50 units, could reduce our homeless population by up to between 8 to 10% based upon the 2024 PIC count numbers. So that is a significant reduction for the city. It also helps the city to meet the required RENA numbers. So the state of California imposes on every single city a number of units that it must produce, most of those being affordable. And so the city must comply with what the state requirements are. And so this particular project, as well as many other projects as well that the city works on, helps with reducing those numbers that the state imposes upon the city. And then a low investment and a high return for the city. So the city's financial investment in this project is about $2.5 million. This project in totality, and again, that 2.5 all comes from the state. So the city themselves has not necessarily had to come out of pocket for any of the funds. The 2.5 million that the city is putting in actually comes from the state. The 22 million, additional 22 million or so that Danco has, that we've applied for collectively, also comes from the state. So very low investment from the city, but a high return. The funds come into the city to support our homeless population. And it also meets the city's requirement to deconcentrate poverty and eliminate housing discrimination based upon income status. So the city has a commitment and a requirement by the federal and the state government to deconcentrate poverty, which means that you cannot take all low-income individuals and place them in one location. You have to ensure that throughout the city that everyone has access to equal housing, no matter where it is. And so this particular project helps the city to meet those goals that are required, that are imposed on the city by the federal government. And so this project is just an example. As we go forward in our reporting, we can show this isn't, we're deconcentrating throughout the entire city. And so that is all of the questions that I have. But if you have, you have yellow cards? Or all the...
Can you hear me okay now? All right, and I got a loud voice, so I'll scream if I need to. Okay, has everyone put their comments or cards in here? We ask for you to put your information on the card, because if we are not able to get to your question or your comment, we will respond to that particular question or comment on our website, so we can make sure that you actually have an answer if you have a question, or if you have a comment, that comment can actually be exposed to everyone. So if you have any questions with regard to this particular city presentation, please put your cards or comments here so that I can make sure that we can respond to you, even if we don't get to you today. Is that clear? Okay, so if you have something, I need you to put it in right now. If you have not already put a comment or question in, put it in there now, so that way we can pull and try to respond. Is that clear? If your comment is not in here, there's a chance that you are not going to actually have your question or comment responded to. That's for the yellow sheet, just for this presentation here. Okay, so, sir, pull a card. All right, thank you. This person is Tom Lodi, and you want to ask your question yourself. Make your comment yourself. Okay.
Thank you very much. We kind of had an assumption that the county was part of this program. Probably a faulty assumption because they're not here. My wife worked for Solano County Health and Human Services. My daughter worked in a comparable position at Willow. We're familiar with the process for how people get admitted into this process. It's a referral process. It's very stringent. We really haven't heard anything about how somebody gets introduced to the program, how they get chosen into the program, who gets in, who doesn't get in. What does that admission process look like? That's you guys?
Yeah, so there's a section that will talk about the intake process.
Excellent.
That part will come up next after this portion of the presentation.
Okay, one quick follow-up question then. Where's the chain of accountability here? Who do you guys report to? You guys report to. Eventually, who is held accountable for the effectiveness of the program and the administration of the program?
Okay, that's a good question. He asks, how does the chain of compliance actually work for this particular project? The city will actually be the one that will monitor the regulatory agreement. So that means going through, visiting the property, making sure the affordability, making sure everything that is actually in the regulatory agreement is followed. Every year we would go and monitor the project and make sure that they are in compliance. Now, with regard to the actual property managers and the service coordinators, those will be under the actual developer. So the service coordinator will work with the developer and the property managers in order to be able to provide services for the project. Overall, the city will make sure that there is compliance for the entire project. However, the developer will be responsible for the site. The developer will be responsible for making sure property management is taking place at the site, and the developer will also make sure that the services are provided for this particular site. So that's the hierarchy. That's clear.
That is clear, thank you. We do know Solano County Health and Human Services does a great program. Has the city ever done anything similar to this? Do they have people already on board that will be able to do this kind of work to be able to oversee what it is they're doing, or does it require an increase in budget or headcount somewhere? Okay.
One of the key things about this particular project is that everyone that is actually referred to this site has to come from the county's behavioral health. And so Kaminar is going to speak about that a little bit later, but that's how the county will actually interface with regard to this project. All the referrals will come from the coordinated entry system. And so we will have some level of coordination. However, Kaminar will be the direct actual entity that is ensuring that they are working with the county to be able to get the referrals, get the names from the people that's on the behavioral health system, the coordinated entry system, and then those will be referred to the site. Now, in terms of how the overall process will work, just to make sure I answer even more. Kaminar will refer to the actual developer property managers. The property managers will assess the applications, and then after they have assessed any applications or referrals, then they will come to the housing authority, and we will assess those for the project-based voucher eligibility and compliance.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Okay. That's okay. So I think this is Inga Breton. Okay, sorry. Inga Brereton. Will the potential residents be for Fairfield residents? Will the potential residents be for, excuse me? Yes. Okay. So the question is, will there be Fairfield only residents at this particular site, or refer to this site? So Fairfield will be the priority for all residents at this site. However, we will work with the county in order to try to make sure that we're getting names off the county's coordinated entry system. However, Fairfield will have the highest priority, so we can make sure that Fairfield is prioritized in this particular project. No, if you have a card.
No, because you just made a point.
Excuse me, if you have a card that we pull, then we can respond to you. Thank you.
I'll come back. You're not going to make me leave. You just made a statement that said this county will select who goes there.
Sir, I'm going to ask that you respect the process here, please. I'm please going to ask that you respect the process. Thank you.
I'm not leaving.
That's okay. All right. This question is, what exactly will be the clear rules associated with this project? I think I'm going to work with our property managers who might be able to expound upon that.
Could oh. I mean, right, but it'd be nice to know exactly what specifically around rules, okay? What specifically are you asking for about clear rules? Like just, was that you? Yeah. Are you, yeah. Okay, so so on our lease violation, our house, so we have a lease and house rules. Oh, sorry, we have lease and house rules. So on the house rules, guests cannot be in the unit for more than 7 days out of a 14-day reoccurring period. 7 days no longer, but they have to get prior, we have to give them prior approval before they have someone there for 7 days. And then, so that's around guests. And then when you, yes, there's definitely rules against, the property has to remain clean. And it has to be a clean, am I really not, I can hear myself so loudly, that's why I'm not talking that loud. But tenants do, the property needs to remain clean. We do have a full-time maintenance person. We have a property manager on site. We also have the caseworkers on site. We do hold the tenants accountable to the lease and house rules. Their rooms, or they're not their rooms, but their apartments or units have to be clean. We do occupied unit inspections annually. Unless they need something more frequently, we will accommodate that if we have if a tenant that's having trouble keeping their units clean. And then we also work with our caseworkers when there's what was one of the other questions you asked? Oh, well, with cars, they have to yeah, we'll remove the car if it's not operational. They can't have, I just want to know.
Okay. My last question is, are there going to be children here, like parents with children?
There could be. There could be.
In a one-bedroom or a studio?
If they qualify. I
was just asking if children were going to be there with families. With sex offenders, level 1 and 2, and meth heads, and criminally ill people that are addicted. So kids will be there.
There's a potential that there could be household members under 18 in that facility, yes, in that project.
One last question. The question. Okay. This is the one we will keep, all right. Why did you move forward without meeting with the community the community you represent? So for this particular project, there has been a couple of different processes associated with this. As has been indicated already, we put out a NOFA so that we could actually have people apply to the city to utilize the funds that we had received for the Housing Trust Fund. From that particular NOFA, we did get responses from developers. The successful developer was Danco. Danco came in with this particular project so that they would be able to convert that particular motel to permanent supportive housing. The state also put out a NOFA for Home Key. So Home Key, they were providing over $1 billion to be able to provide to cities all over California. So for this particular project, we knew that it would have an opportunity for the actual Home Key project, and they were successful with regard to the actual funding for the city. After that process, we would then have to apply to the state in order to be able to submit the Home Key project. We came back to our city council meetings to be able to present the information so then that they would be able to let us know if they wanted to move forward with the project or not. We were recommending that we move forward because it would allow us to be able to create housing for the homeless population. After that process, we put out a project-based voucher RFP because we wanted to make sure that there's project-based vouchers in order to be able to bring down the cost so that it would be a feasible project. We went through that process. We then brought that back to our council for approval for consideration. All of this is public transparency. So we did go through a process in order to be able to follow the different aspects of this project. Then the developer, there was delays from the state, there was delays from HUD in terms of processing. However, the developer had indicated that they would meet with the community because that is something that always takes place when you're doing these development projects. Because of the delays, the developer did not necessarily have the community meetings early on because we had not secured the financing and we were still going through the process with HUD and the state. So we have, through all of the different aspects of the project, gone through the public transparency process, presented the information as we are required as a part of the city, And now we are trying to make sure that we are doing a public engagement so that, because we now know that the project has real. One of the things with a lot of developers is they do not like to try to have major meetings before you know that the project is real, because in that way you're making people think that something has happened and you don't really know that it even has legs at that time. So as that information became apparent, we move forward in terms of trying to make sure that we are meeting with you, the community, we have another meeting, and so on and so forth for this particular project. But we have moved forward with this project because at each of the different levels, at each of the different aspects of the cycles that we had got the information, the developer had complied, the developer was successful in those particular attempts, and we brought it back to our council for council consideration and approval, and those things were approved. Okay, sorry. Time for the next one. Okay, so we have to move on to the next presentation. At the end, if we have some more time, we will be able to take public questions over the overall project.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is DeAndre Richard. I am a lifelong Fairfield resident, grew up here, live in the district that we're talking about. I'm also the program director. I work for Caminar. I'm the program director for Resource Connect Solano, which is the coordinated entry system for the entire Solano County. And Caminar has operated the coordinated entry system of Resource Connect Solano for about 7 years. What is coordinated entry? It's a HUD design system that allows individuals to access services and be matched and referred to appropriate housing opportunities that they qualify for. The projects that we refer to, they each have specific qualifications, and so while we are a housing first community, residents still must meet certain requirements in order to be referred to those projects. And then those requirements for HUD, for permanent supportive housing, you have to be chronically unhoused. So that means you have to be unhoused for 1 year or longer with a diagnosed disability. Whatever permanent supportive housing project you go to, that is the requirement by HUD. And once being referred to a project, so when they're referred from Resource Connect Solano, it doesn't mean that someone is automatically approved or ready to move in. Each project has its own eligibility checks, and kind of as the team mentioned earlier, each one of our organizations has a different kind of eligibility check. That becomes, I think, more kind of tougher and tougher and tougher as it goes through. So along that process, a referral from RCS, that's just the first step. And then that services team, which is Caminar, is going to come next. They are with you through that time. So by the time you're referred, those services pick up. So if a person is not engaging in the services, then they're probably able to handle that lease-up process by themselves, right? So if not, they do have services that are attached to the program. So how people can access coordinated entry, we've got a 24/7 call center, United Way Bay Area, 211. You can call 211 or call the 707-652-7311, 24/7. So if you see somebody, there's cards, there's flyers that might need that assistance, reach out, give them the phone, tell them to call 211. Just tell them to call 211. You can give them a card or a flyer. That's how they get connected to the coordinated entry system. Outreach teams, I'm going to pass the mic to Ms. Keitra Wellen with Change and New Beginnings, who leads our access team here in Fairfield.
So hello, my name is Keitra. I'm with Change and New Beginnings. We currently operate a outreach program here in the city of Fairfield. It is funded through City of Fairfield funds. It is only for Fairfield homeless. Currently, what we do is we provide the missing link to outreach. In the past, outreach has been, hi, you're homeless, we don't have any resources for you, here's a bag of food and a hygiene kit, we'll come back and check on you in 3 months. We don't do that. We meet with the people that are homeless. We go where they are. We meet with them on a regular and consistent basis. We're talking some 2 to 3 times a week. We not only provide them food and hygiene kits and socks and underwear, and we have the showers that are there once a month, so everything that you would need for the showers, but we also provide them the part that they've never gotten before unless you're in a program, which is case management. We sit with them and say, what is it that you need to end your cycle of homelessness? Is it you need to apply for Social Security, but there's no program that you're in that will help you do that? Guess what? We have a Social Security advocate that can help you with that. You need assistance with your food stamps. You need assistance trying to figure out how to get into an apartment because you have income, but you're not quite sure how to fill out the application, or you don't know where to go to do some of the applications. We do all that for them and with them, which is the big part. They engage with us. If this project was to open in the next 4 months, I can tell you right now, I have over 100 people off the top of my head that would be qualified, that would be able to get into there and would not have any of the problems that I know we all think they're going to have. Yes, they have a mental health condition. Do you know that severe depression is considered a severe mental health issue? Because I got a lot of homeless people that suffer from clinical depression. The people that want to get into this type of housing, the people that are engaging with my staff on a regular basis, all are doing so because they don't want to be homeless anymore. Because they know that there is something out there for them. They just haven't been able to get there. And not to lie, I've been doing this for 20 some odd years now. I can tell you there is a lack of resources, there is a lack of housing. So all these people that have been homeless all these years, people who I have known for 15, 16, 17 years, finally have an opportunity to get housed. I dealt with somebody that was 74 years old, had been homeless for 27 years. I fought tooth and nail, and I got him into Fairhaven, which is a so similar project to this. Fairhaven is an apartment complex here in Fairfield where you have to meet the same eligibility requirements. It is an apartment complex. It's not a facility. This isn't a lockdown. The people that want the housing, that are eligible for this housing, are people who are willing to engage in services. Yes, they have issues, but the last time I checked, so do people in my neighborhood. They're housed. So I know it's very easy to say those drug addicts and those people with severe mental health issue. I can tell you, I also have a list in my head of 20 people who I would never refer to such a program because they're not eligible, because they don't want to engage, and because, yes, they have the severest of mental health issues. They wouldn't fill out the paperwork. They won't come in to talk to you. They won't do anything because their mental health is that bad. Those are not the people we're going to swoop in and put into housing, because that's not what they want. And I would love to say there's somewhere to put those individuals. And the last conversation I had 3 hours ago proved there's not. So again, these are people that are engaging in services that I see over and over and over again, who the only thing we're missing is a place to live. That is all that they are missing. So when you have programs like Access, like SIOT, which is a county-wide outreach program that hits Vacaville, Fairfield, Sassoon, Dixon, Rio Vista, Benicia, and Vallejo, we are working with those that want assistance. Nobody woke up 2 months ago or 20 years ago and said, you know what, today I want to be homeless. That sounds like a good plan. I have yet to meet anybody that has ever told me that. Now, I've had people wake up and say, drugs got the best of me. My family got the best of me. Divorce, lost my job. I can give you all those reasons. But nobody just woke up one day and said, I'd like to be homeless. And we are working with people to help in that, but I can't do anything about it if I have nowhere to house them. And this project is going to solve that problem for a minimum of 50 people. Can't get off my soapbox here.
Thank you, Keisha. So kind of going along right after that, like who will be referred to Vista Ridge? Residents of Fairfield will be prioritized and referred to this project. What does that mean exactly? So we currently have a list of 428 folks who are unhoused in Fairfield on our housing queue. This means that it has been confirmed that these participants are unhoused in the city of Fairfield, and a homeless certification must be signed by a community service provider like Access or other Fairfield service providers before they can move into this project. That is another one of the HUD qualifications. It's a homeless certification, it's a third-party certification, there's a disability certification, and there's a chronic certification. Participants in the housing queue will be referred based on what are the requirements. The housing queue, it tracks both the participant's location, Fairfield, and the length of time that they've been unhoused. So we start at the top of that list of how long someone's been unhoused. Currently, there are individuals in Fairfield who've been unhoused since as far back as December 2008. Veterans will be prioritized for this project. How does that work? Veteran housing has been a national priority, and it's the focus, it's especially a strong focus here in Solano. So we currently have 10 unhoused veterans on the housing queue who will be prioritized for this Vista Ridge project. And we have a staff member with us who, Mr. Reggie Saronin, just wanted to give him the mic. He's also on our lived experience committee here in Solano County and has experience of being in this situation.
Hello, everybody. My name is Reggie. I really don't know where to start, but I'll start here. To the gentleman that is a correctional officer, I will tell you that I walked those streets of I've walked those halls of the Vacaville State Prison as an inmate. That was quite a while ago. I've been through many relapses since then. In 2010, I got out of prison. I had nowhere to go. Luckily, there was a place called Mission Solano. You know what? I may have picked up furniture from your residence. I may have picked up supplies from your store as a donation. I'm the person that will open your door for you when you come out of a door. I'll step aside for you when you walk toward me. You know, if I'm in your way. All that said, the job that I do and the people that I talk to on a daily basis, they need more assistance than what I was able to give myself. I am a pull my boots up by the bootstraps sort of guy. I got in there, I did the work, I did what was necessary to get me out of the situation that I did not want to be in. I know that it takes hard work, but I also know that from the people that I speak to, they are just crying out for assistance. Not everybody is a drug addict. Not everybody is a pedophile. Not everybody is a criminal. We all have something within us that might make us think that, you know what, maybe that's me too. A lot of our people, a lot of our families are in situations that maybe we don't want to talk about or we don't even want to recognize. But the thing is that the problem is there. And you're right. When you look around the streets of Fairfield, we can see that the numbers are growing. So why keep it at that? Why not make steps? Why not take a chance and do things and do something that may be different, that may be uncomfortable, but it can help benefit not just that person, but us as we move forward. So look, give people a chance. Thank you. And just.
Hey, Dre, I want to make sure we can get through.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I want to make sure we can get everything through and get to the Q&A as well. I know you guys have a couple more slides. So
kind of going to segue it into, thank you, Reggie. I want to segue it into Caminar operates Resource Connect Solano, the coordinated entry system, and then Caminar also has the supported housing department, which offers services, and that's by our director of supported housing, Ms. Lene Magnuson.
Good evening, Fairfield residents. I want to give you our experience. Several of you are familiar with Caminar and our services. We have been providing services since 1965, but here in Solano, we have been doing it since the late 80s. But specifically in Fairfield, we've been doing permanent supportive housing since 2006. So that's a long time. And right now, we have 118 families in 2 different projects currently with the Housing Authority and other developers. So this type of project is already in the community. And I just really want you to know that we have a commitment to these individuals, to yourselves. We want this to be the best community possible. So who will be living here? It's 50 heads a household, and I'm sorry for the technical terms, but I'm diving into that because sometimes somebody has a child, sometimes somebody has a partner, sometimes somebody has a dog, and that's what's keeping them from going into housing. So we're going to be able to take that unit and put them into housing so that they can grow, thrive, and prosper. All heads of household will be, like this gentleman said, they're linked up with county services, behavioral health services. They have to have a diagnosed, what is called severe mental illness, and they will have services and support. Also, please know that, again, the disabled veterans are a priority. We have a way to dynamically prioritize any veteran that's coming into the system. They will be first on the list. Okay, so very quickly, I know we're running out of time. So connection to mental health we talked about, healthcare services, eviction prevention. We want to get people in, we want to keep them in. Services and support helps that. Anger management, how can you be a good citizen and neighbor? That's what we're there to support folks with. Substance use program treatment, either off-site, on-site, we have connections. Folks need to have the income that they're entitled to, whether that's a wage, they're out working in the community, or whether they might be a disabled person, disabled veteran. All of the services listed and all of the health insurance listed, we want to connect them with. Also, food pantry, folks need access to food. And then we also want to provide enrichment opportunities. We all participate in things that make us feel good and connected, and the participants for this community will also want to do that. And the more they do that, the more they look at this is their home, and the surrounding community is something to be taken care of and cherished. Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. And really quickly, it'll take 2 minutes. I want to introduce Ms. Carrie Lee Walker and Ms. Monica.
Hey everybody, my name is Carrie Lee Walker. As Dre had mentioned, I am a lead forensic case manager. I'm a lead forensic case manager for Kaminar CCM, stands for Comprehensive Case Management Services, with a specialty in forensics. And for those who do not know what forensics is, essentially it is the integrative system between mental health services and the criminal justice system. And so by listening to everybody's mentions of it, what I'm hearing is pretty much a lot of fear, and I understand that, and I think it's important for us to have these conversations. But I will say that I do have a success story who is sitting next to me. So everybody who essentially is saying that, you know, substance use can contribute into these things, etc. I just want to emphasize that these services actually work. I'm someone who, in part of our case, or excuse me, our services, we do not refer just anybody, right? Because at the end of the day, if they're not prepared to live independently, we will not connect them to those services, because we want to make sure that they have the autonomy to do what they need to do. And that does not mean that our services for these clients end at all. We actually follow them through until they're prepared for a successful discharge. And that also includes if we need to step them down to what we call what we call a peer level support. So the services will continue. The last thing I will say, depending on the cases, because everyone is unique to their own needs, right? I am the liaison in regards to that, so sometimes I do have to work outside of my scope and even help people of the geriatric population get connected to IHSS workers to make sure, again, that they receive those services, because what we're not going to do is discriminate against people just because of an SMI diagnosis or a severe mental illness, right? So the person who's sitting on the side of me is the person who actually rejects the fear that was mentioned in this town hall. So she has went through each services that we had. We used to have 3. Now we're down to DISH, which is Department of State Hospitals. Essentially, she was not a part of that, but she was a part of one of the forensics. Because we gave her the opportunity, I'm gonna emphasize, opportunity, she made sure that she practiced sobriety. She stayed housed at her boarding care level of support. She made sure she attended all of her meetings. She also is a peer support where she currently resides. And she also is someone who has been accepted into one of these permanent housing support placements in Fairfield.
All right, I do want to start getting to the questions, so can you guys
Sure.
please start getting to the peach color cards? If anybody has the peach color cards, pink color cards, please bring them on up. They're going to start answering those questions right now.
Thank you, you guys.
This isn't a question. This isn't a question. Trying to flip for the questions. I see the comments. How many homeless are residing from Fairfield? 428, but actively doing outreach as well. That was from Mr. Brad Rollins. No name, but how do you decide who gets to move in? I think we covered that. Cool. Any more pink cards?
All right, why don't we move to just kind of the general Q&A. We don't have cards for that, so if folks want to line up here behind the podium, the collective of the team, collective of the team, very critical. We're going to try to keep it concise, right? About a minute to ask the question or make your comment so that we can get through as many folks as possible. So, sir?
Well, I'm really perplexed that the location to choose. I invite everybody in this room to check Bozeman, Montana. I was in a hotel, they have almost the same project. And look at the hotel, how they get negatively impacted. You said high return to the community. There are almost 3,000 houses there. If you multiply with an average of 650,000, you're gambling with $2 billion of houses, plus the business is almost another $2 billion. I agree with the project, but you have to have the strategic locations. Fairfield, you can reap not the benefits, the impact, the negative impact of this project, how it's going to cause many people to move because they're not going to manage. The way you were managing the microphone, that's the way how you're going to manage this project. Watch.
Thank you very much. Next up.
Has the final decision been made on this project? Is this a go?
On September 10th, the Planning Commission is going to hear the site planning, all of those requirements, and then if the grant will still have to come back to City Council. They'll have to approve any regulatory agreements. So the City Council could still vote this down.
Okay, the City Council voted yay for this. So I have no confidence in them. Can this be put to a vote? I said, can this be put to a vote?
Any action of the City Council can be put to a vote on a referendum.
How do we do that?
That process is clearly laid out in state law.
Okay, will you initialize that? Because you see, there is a climate here that is very, very negative.
If city council votes to move the project forward, I'm not going to be moving on a referendum, but you as a private citizen are able to do that. Again, it's very clearly spelled out in state law what the requirements are.
Is there a distance requirement for a facility such as this, and how close it is to schools?
That'll be your last question, but anybody have that specific answer?
You're less than a mile from a high school and an elementary school.
2,000 feet.
2,000 feet?
All right, ma'am.
Would you let her talk? Are you going to answer this lady's question?
I believe the answer is 2,000 feet, but what we will do is we will confirm the answer to your question, and we will post that with all of the questions. So, Latanya, if we can make sure and just capture that, the distance requirement. Yeah, so we will make sure and post that answer.
I have a question for you. You mentioned that as part of the grant that it had to be close to transportation for services. How close?
So, can you hear me okay? It's a progressive scoring system, so the threshold is typically between anywhere from 1/3 of a mile to a mile, but the closer that specific amenity, it's called a site amenity, is to the project site, the more points you receive under the state's application process. So if you're 1/3 of a mile, you get more points than if you're a mile.
Okay. And then I have a question for you. You mentioned that you had 100 people have 100 people or so that you feel would be very qualified for this, and all of the concerns that we are addressing you don't feel are necessary. So my question is, why a fence and 24-hour security?
Because most apartment complexes nowadays provide that. All the ones that I know of that I've placed people in, because we also run a rental assistance program, and just so you know, Canby also does permanent supportive housing. I have houses in neighborhoods, and chronically homeless people with disabilities currently live there. I'm in the process of changing houses because the house sold at a very high rate. So as far as I know, that's just the new thing to do. Yes, of the people, and I have to say, I don't have the exact number, forgive me. I wrote it on my desk this morning and I got sidetracked. In the city of Fairfield, there are 189 registered sex offenders. Of those, 10 of them are listed as transient. Of those, 3 of them are in Resource Connect Solano asking for services. 2 of them have not received any services in the last 4 years because the programs they were in, they no longer exist and they no longer need that service. There is 1 registered sex offender in the current Resource Connect queue that would potentially be eligible for that housing, and I can tell you right now, he is a tier 2 and he will not be eligible for that housing. Okay? That is information. You can go on Megan's Law. You had to pull all the records. Let me tell you, it took me a while on a Saturday. So I know we keep saying that it's registered sex offenders. They're all coming. They are not. I know it's the easiest thing to say, but those aren't the people we're trying to house. I'm also not trying to house the ones that are on the side of the street screaming at you and taking their clothes off. They're not coming either. It's the ones that want services.
Thank you. All right,
Okay,
I want to move on, June.
I just want to end with a comment by saying we definitely need a program. I just think the location is very poor location because it's so close to so many businesses, and we cannot afford to lose any more businesses.
Thank you very much.
Hi. So I have, I guess, a comment. I'll make it quick, and then 2 questions. So I own a business directly across the street at the Rayleigh's Plaza. In my experience, now, today, and I'll just preface it with, I think that we do need programs, right? I think that we do need help. And so...
Speak into the mic.
In the mic. So what happens today is at least a few times a week, we have to call the cops. There's homeless people in front of our house. I mean, not in front of our house, in front of our business. There's crack pipes in front of our business. They're on the side with their dogs without leashes. My team doesn't want to stay at night after closing hours to meet with our clients. Therefore, my clients aren't supported because they don't feel safe. And when we call the police, they will come if we agree to do a citizen's arrest. They will not come if we don't agree with that, which then intimidates my team to call and make those reports, so it doesn't get reported until I come in. My one question for the city is, if this goes through, will we increase our police force? And then my question for you, for the communities that have already been developed, do you have any statistics on crime rates before and after, any increase of citizens' complaints, or maybe decrease, maybe it stayed the same? Do you have any of that information available, and surveys from the community surrounding it and what they feel about the project after it's been done? So those are my two questions.
I can speak that we do have certain projects that there are stats taken. They're not keeping by us, but they're keeping by a local police force. I don't have them with me, but we do. There are projects that we have that
Can you
have
share
stats.
that?
We could.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and then as far as the question, will this project result in additional police personnel? The answer is no.
Okay, so we're not planning for that. Because that could be potentially an outcome, right? That we probably need to think about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Palomo. I'm a 10-year resident of Fairfield. I'm also the senior field rep for the NorCal Carpenters Union. My question to you guys, I'm assuming you guys are going to be the general contractor on this project. Being that this is a $28 million project, what are you guys going to be doing outside of prevailing wage to make sure that workers aren't exploited on this project? Because prevailing wage doesn't guarantee they're going to get health care, doesn't guarantee they're going to be equited to a state certified apprenticeship program, and it doesn't guarantee that there's going to be labor compliance where the developer, as you guys, or the general contractor are held accountable. Because you guys have had past projects on prevailing wage using subcontractors that have tax fraud, that have wage theft. One of them was just filed 22 felony counts in Sacramento. First time it's ever happened in California. That's ProFrame. Another contractor you guys use, RJP Framing. They were just in February had to pay $1 million to over 1,000 workers on prevailing wage projects for wages lost, failure to pay all wages, failure to provide meal periods, failure to provide rest periods, failure to keep accurate payroll records. It seems like you guys have a history of hiring contract subs that do this. These are just the two, and these are just some workers that came forward. And the time we're in right now, a lot of all the ICE raids, these workers are terrified to come forward. If there are issues, they don't want to speak. They're terrified of deportation, retaliation. So again, what are you guys going to do to make sure that this does not happen on this project, is what I want to know.
Well, we are doing prevailing wage, as you spoke, and we are being monitored by the city and to be in compliance for those prevailing wage requirements. And to my knowledge, we don't have any open cases or any violations that currently exist from the labor board. So I'm not sure what stats you're speaking of. I know we've had issues with subcontractors. Anybody doing business is going to have an issue, but we've resolved all those, and all wages have been paid and resolved. So there's no open cases that we have currently.
But for future, what is your guys' pre-qualification process to make sure that contractors
We screen
like
our
this?
subcontractors. We check references. We make sure that they're bona fide. That's our process.
And to a part of your question there is who's overseeing that.
Yeah.
A part of that is the city's housing department. We have a construction management function, and we do that. We confirm the prevailing wage. We do on-site interviews. We do the spot checks and do all of that stuff to ensure that everything that Danco's doing is in compliance with all of the state requirements.
Yeah, but so these happen to these workers, they had the same thing. So
I can't speak for any other agency that's overseeing a project. All I can speak for is our team here and doing the
So
doing
if there
the
are
oversight
wage theft and
responsibility.
tax fraud on this project, who's going to be held accountable?
We'll be held accountable.
Danco will be held
Danco's the general
responsible.
contractor will be held accountable, and then we would go to the subs and hold them accountable if we can. Otherwise, we would make it right.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I think, can you hear me? Okay, I just want to start myself. I've been a resident of this town for 45 years. I've seen this town grow from 19,000 to whatever the current figures are. We did a lot in this town to bring all the goodies here.
Speak close to the mic.
We did a lot of things to do good in this town. Now we're spending so much money on the main project going on the streets to beautify it. Did we ever has taken into consideration this is the last exit and the first exit to the Fairfield? And the location of the, they are going to put the homeless is going to bring the major negative impact. And as far as the retail, I heard somebody said about CVS and other things like that. I've been in a retail business for 48 years. And I've been in a hospitality business for 25 years. That place does not need homeless. That place needs a flag change. If we change the flag, we're going to bring more revenue this to town. By bringing a homeless, you bring a major impact on all the properties here. Here we're talking about 28 million. But look at all the properties they own it. We're talking about in billions. Are they willing to put the bond on that if our property values go down? So that's what I'm going to say to you guys. But please, let's get involved in a political. I think so we need changes.
Thank you, sir.
Hi. I had been hearing a lot of things about home key being a problem for properties, and I actually did a little research into it. I Googled two things. I Googled, is home key bad for neighborhoods? And I Googled, does home key lower home values? And in general, what I found was that there is either no impact or positive impacts on property values when a home key comes into the neighborhood. There were some studies where results were mixed. Some positive impacts on property values were definitely found. I found a site, because there's very little when you Google those two things. I encourage you all to do so. But there was one foundation called the A. Mark Foundation. They looked at studies and they said, of the studies that they detailed, 7 show that when low-income housing was built, house values in the neighborhoods increased. 3 of those studies excuse me, were in California. Another study researched property values in the least affordable housing markets in the United States, including Los Angeles, San Diego, and Orange County, and found that newly built low-income housing had no effect on property values. And 3 studies showed that the introduction of low-income properties can have impacts, but only based on the type of neighborhood. So for the most part, it's really, really hard to find information that says that a home key project with permanent supportive housing, wraparound services, has any negative effect on home values or home safety.
Thank you. Ma'am, next.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to know if the PowerPoint slideshow is available for review, if it can be accessed on the web, or if it can be emailed to me through somebody.
Yeah, we'll put it on the project website.
Okay. And you had said that the project is going before the Planning Commission on what day?
September 10th.
Okay. Who's the planner?
Off the top of my head, I don't know who the planner is. Hey, Dave Zellers.
Okay.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, Yi Lin Wong is the planner on the project.
Okay. All right. And I'd like to thank you for your kindness in detailing to the public all the services that you offer in a very formidable manner. I believe you're doing God's work. So, thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
A couple of questions. First of all, on the services side, just got a question on the brochure here. The brochure says that every resident will be offered the services. What requires them to actually get the services they need? How are we going to make sure they go and get the training and support they need? I'm just asking because you talked about it. So, because it says it will be offered, it doesn't say it's mandatory. So I'm just curious, how do you ensure they're getting the training, the counseling, the education they need to take advantage of this facility?
That's a really good question. I appreciate that. What we find is that folks want to participate in services, much the way Keitra was mentioning earlier. They have a desire. this is the first time somebody has ever believed in them. And they're hungry to learn and to grow and to access. And that is our experience. I'm going to say at Fairhaven Commons, I think we have one or two that were difficult to engage. We engaged the most difficult client, but then there's one that we are currently engaging. So out of 44 units, maybe one is harder to reach. This is a project of 50, so I think we can bet on there's probably going to be one that's harder to reach than others.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
I want to follow up to my question earlier. You presented a slide, you talked about there's going to be 50 units, 48 plus the manager unit. That would reduce homelessness in Fairfield by 8 to 10%, is that correct? What is the current homeless population of Fairfield?
428, right?
That's 428 people on the list for the Solano project. How many people in Fairfield?
The 428 are Fairfield.
Just Fairfield?
Just Fairfield, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, yeah.
Just want to verify.
Sorry, I didn't understand that. Just Fairfield, 428.
Hi, my name is Julia. I'm an attorney that works in housing in Solano County, and I want to say thank you for building affordable housing here to keep Fairfield in line with its mandatory obligations under law to build affordable housing and to disperse it throughout the community. I also want to encourage everyone, I'm hearing a lot of concern about following program rules, following lease rules, safety at the site. I work with people who live both in private housing and in public housing. The rules in public housing are extremely strict. I encourage you to look up family obligations for people who are living in project-based units. There is pages and pages of rules to sign, and if you are in violation, you can and likely will get evicted. That's a lot stricter than people living in private housing. So a lot of times the concerns about safety, security, that's addressed very clearly and oftentimes managed with people on site directly, and that's not happening in private housing, so it's often more secure in public housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And ma'am, the lady here with the mask on, she'll be our last question so that we can stay on time. So thank you, sir.
My name's Joseph Tomlinson. I've lived here since 1964, and I've seen a lot of changes over the years. I just want to state that I'm concerned. I'm hearing two different sides when it comes to the program. What it is that, okay, with the first town hall meeting, I heard that they have a choice whether or not they go ahead and they participate in the program/services. Is this correct or not?
Yes. I mean, I'll look to Kamenar, but generally speaking, somebody is not mandated to participate in the service offerings at the property.
Okay. Secondly, I am a retired peace officer. I've dealt with the Department of Mental Health. I've worked with them for over 12 years. Okay. With
covering, okay, there is a set curriculum, a set schedule of how they go about doing things. I'm concerned about the fact that if they don't have to participate in this, they can still remain at the location. Is that correct? If they don't participate in services, they can still stay. It's an apartment complex. This is permanent housing. Okay. Now, because like that, I realize that there's 3 tiers when it comes to sexual offenders. And along with that, there's going to be the homeless chief. Am I correct? Well, this is actually housing specific to the homeless population that will be moving against. And once they move in, then by definition, they will be homeless. Okay. And on top of that,
there's going to be drug offenders. Is that correct?
People that have drug addiction issues, yes, they're eligible to live in the property.
Okay, my question, okay, who am I addressing right now? I don't know your name.
I'm David. I'm the city manager.
You're the city manager. Thank you. My concern is this right here. If I am somebody that has a drug problem and I don't want to participate in any of the services of the program, I just want to go ahead and chill. Okay? How am I going to go ahead and improve myself? What is the plan for these people that do not want to participate in the program and services? How are you going to go ahead and to make the society a better place when you don't have a set guideline for what these people need to do in order to stay there?
I'll have the service providers answer that question directly.
Hi, sir. My name's Lene Magnuson. Again, I'm the Director of Supported Housing for Kaminar, and very much I appreciate your question. A large majority of our folks, our participants that we serve, want to participate. This is actually something they're striving for to get into the program. We have very few folks that make it through a lease-up process and then just say, we don't want to have anything to do with you. We're kind of their lifeline. We help them progress, grow, gain income, connect to the community. There's a real incentive to participate. The entire community also gets that sense of we belong and we're doing this together. So while I understand your concern, it's a very low rate. Like I said earlier, at our Fairhaven Commons property where we have 44 individuals, we have one person right now out of 44 that is hard to engage with. However, they're abiding by all terms of their lease, so they can stay at the property. They're just not benefiting from everything we could do. And right now they're paying their rent, they're not getting in trouble, so they're not in jail, they're in housing. And so they are, by the standards, an upstanding person in the community. So they don't have to engage, but we would like them to, and a large majority want to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, my other concern is this right here.
Sir, I want to make sure we can get to everybody's questions. So I'm happy to talk with you afterwards as well.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak one more time. I want to address the question that was presented earlier to Danko, and I believe, sir, you did not have an answer. However, I found the answer for you. It's a research done by a Pacific Research Institute, an independent, nonpartisan organization who dived deeply into the research of how effective the Home Key project in the state of California. And basically they're saying, contrary to the claims that Project Home Key is successfully addressing California's homeless crisis, a new study released by the nonpartisan Pacific Research Institute finds that the program is costly, inefficient, and not helping to reduce homelessness. I'm finished with that. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
Okay, don't boo me, even though I'm not Beyonce. But I have a real big concern that there's been a lot of misinformation for whatever reason put out there about the unhoused. Some people are acting as if this housing is for people who it's going to be marauding, it's going to be bands of crazed people running the street and raping people. That's not the way it is. We've already have people here in the community, service community. I'm a psychotherapist by profession. I've worked in the prison, with the military, and so forth. And right now I work with an unhoused population. So I know a little bit, and I've also had lived experiences. I just want to say that one of the big concerns, and I get it, because I don't want, anyone, a bunch of people defecating and behind my fence or anything else. But we've got people here who are vetted. These people are vetted. These are our professionals who have vetted these people. And I just say, as a community, I was really ashamed at the last meeting. I was afraid to speak because I feared for my safety. This is not who we are. this is permanent housing. There are services, there are because the big concern is in terms of security and services. And those have been answered. Those services will be provided. There will be security for people around the perimeters. There will be security in terms of the community. But the main thing is in terms of services, because a lot of times what we do is we try people on Nextdoor. On Nextdoor, we put a lot of misinformation out there about, and there's been a lot of misinformation about this whole project. Let's work together as a community. I'm satisfied. Every question that I've had hasn't been answered, but I'm satisfied. Let's try to do something for our unhoused brothers and sisters in this community. Thank you all so much for all of your work.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. I had already announced that she would be the last one, but I think some of our staff might be happy to answer your questions. So that concludes this meeting. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Just to reiterate, we have all of these comment cards and question cards still. We'll be addressing any of those questions, and that'll be going up on the city's project site, fairfield.ca.gov/Vista Ridge. Thank you, everybody.